Mike Lewis has got a good LinkedIn game.
Yeah, he has a really good LinkedIn.
He is. He's finding it hard on any other platform now, though, because the success is nowhere near as good as it is on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So you want to be about a fist away?
Okay. So
Right.
are we on now?
We are. And there you see how pretty you look.
Oh,
I forgot to mention that. So
Um,
it's not just to make sure you sound good, it's to make sure you look.
Make sure you look good. I should have said.
Yeah, that's why I wear a hat, because have you seen what's happened to my hair now?
I did spot that.
Yeah, of course, everyone does. It's just not many people say it.
Well, there's nothing you can do about it. A mate of mine just had tattoo. Sorry, just had a hair tattoo.
Oh, really? Oh, but it looks like real hair.
It looks like stubble.
Yeah. Well, look, these hair transplants are pretty good now. And you don't have to go to Turkey anymore. You can just go up the road into London. There was one that was half fries the other week. I was like,
is that the sort of thing you want to be doing on the cheek?
I don't know. My mate got it done, and it does look good. But that's now.
Now?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah. But we don't, yeah. But still, I think when you're in a bit of pain and your hair falls out, you'll do anything, really.
You will. Where am I putting this?
There should be a bin around. If not, just throw it in the top of this. I'm one of these strange people that leaves the tea bag in.
Leaves a tea bag in?
Yeah. So it must be, 4-5 years since I've seen you?
It's got to be. Got to be.
You haven't changed.
I have. I'm nearly back. So I'm not running at the minute. So I'm nearly back at the weight that before I saw you.
Are you?
Yeah. But it's different weight. It's different weight.
What do you mean? You think it's muscle? This is what every old guy tells themselves. Yeah, it's muscle.
No, my clothes feel different.
Yeah, tighter. Yeah.
Fair.
This is the hard thing. Anyone, I thought you only had one sugar bunny.
Well, they're small, aren't they?
Anyone who does distance training has that difficult transition of when they're not training, they still eat like they are.
I know.
Mike Moore says the same thing. He's like, if I ever had to stop training, I'd be fat.
Yeah.
Because No. But he says, to realise that I'm not training anymore and I have to eat like I'm not training.
Yeah. No, you're totally right, because you just get used to eating, drinking, whatever you want.
Yeah, there are a few upsides to distance training. In fact, there's only one that I can think of, and that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, seriously.
But if you're running 75, 80 miles a week, you're probably burning 10,000 calories doing that.
Yeah, which equates
so
probably in your...
That's probably about £3.
Yeah, and how many bags of mini eggs?
That's
how I would do it. I'd be like, right,
that's
that 20 pints of lager, 3 bags. Yeah, that's the thing. I think I'd lose my discipline with food a bit if I was doing what you're doing.
But I'm just going to get back running again.
Why, if you're rowing?
Because I'll have to be disciplined with my food if I don't.
Okay, so when are you rowing?
January 24.
So we've got what, 16 months?
Yeah, not quite.
It's concerning me that I can tell straight away you've said it because it's so far away you're not doing anything yet.
No, we're training.
You are?
Good. Oh god, yeah. Got a specific rowing PT. He's based out of London. He's rowed the Atlantic. I think he probably rowed the Pacific. But it's basically all strength.
How much of the rowing machine is translated into rowing? Not much, no.
Not a lot.
So how do you train?
Well, I think the expression he used was, we use the rowing machine because that's the tool that we've got.
Right.
But if you want a rowing machine, it's every single stroke's perfect because you want a rowing machine. If you then translate that, if you then get on a river,
yeah,
it's more difficult.
Yeah.
If you then get on the sea and your boat's doing this,
yeah,
and then you go to row, and then actually
contact mark a little bit, done. Yeah.
And you go to row, and then basically there's no water down there because there's a wave and you're on an angle. So what's quite interesting is everybody says like rowing's 90, something like 60% legs, 20% core, 20% arms. Ocean rowing, no one's actually said this to me, but I'm convinced it's far more army doing the sea because it's you're having to move your oars constantly.
Oh, you'll find out, right?
We'll find out.
Yeah. How many's in a boat?
4.
And why are you doing it unsupported? That was the thing that concerned me. I was like, why? Like, is that a choice? Is it?
It is no, it is a
finance?
choice. It's a choice. Some of it's needs must. Some of it is because, in actual fact, right, if you read up on this, so there's an official race which is the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge. Everyone calls it the TWAC.
Right.
TWAC.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's the race, right? And they'll dub it that you are supported. But they've got a couple of support yachts covering the entire fleet. So that support boat, the likelihood is, if you have any problems, is going to be a long distance away from you.
Oh, okay. So there's multiple boats.
Yeah, I don't know how many are doing it. I don't know how many.
But you won't see those boats, will you?
No, you won't see those boats.
So how many days how many days would the ideal
40
days of rowing?
But just going back to your unsupported thing, because
Yes.
this is quite key.
Yeah.
So you're in the support network of a race, and they've got their support yachts. But the reality is, if you were really in trouble, it wouldn't be them that came to you. It would be any other vessel. So maritime law is that if someone issues an SOS, a Mayday or SOS, you have to go to their assistance.
Okay.
So it won't be them that picks you up.
It'll be the closest.
It'll be the closest boat. So in actual fact, what's the difference? Doing it on your own or doing it within that? So what we're doing is we're following all of the sort of the due diligence that you have to do to be as part of the race. So last week we were on survival at sea training.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm just lift this up a bit because I'm a bit shorter than you.
Is it starting to go down? Oh, you've got the unlucky one.
Honestly, I put so much weight.
It does, but it will stop. It was happening to me last week. But
so the unsupported thing is, in actual fact, I'm not sure we're that much less supported than the race. The other thing is, the race, you've got to leave in the first week in December.
Okay.
So you've got to be away for Christmas, which isn't ideal if you've got young kids.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how you got around this, but we'll talk about this.
And then, but the other thing is, one of the crewmates. Do you remember when we did Barney's Bash? Do you remember when you were top? You were top.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, let's move on. I fucking never forgot that day ever.
But you remember that event? So the guy whose son it was, who we were raising the money for, he's in the boat.
Okay.
And he's a turkey farmer. So he can't really be away for December.
That's probably his busiest month.
Quite a busy time for him. So that's why. But people keep saying, "Oh, it's so." There's a load of reasons why this is very, very achievable and very, very possible, and I think that's what's quite key to it. And it's funny what you talk about with the with mental health. And so much of it is just how you approach stuff. You can either approach it and go, well, that's ridiculous, that's impossible, or you look at it and go, well, hang on, let's just sort of eat the elephant in little pieces, and how is it achievable? Because there was a really interesting stat that was given in the training that we were at last weekend, which is, so we're using a Rannoch boat. So Rannoch is the manufacturer. Okay. They're based in Essex. They make the best ocean rowing boats in the world, and every single boat, and there haven't been many people that have abandoned ship, so to speak. Okay. But every single boat that's been abandoned because they felt the boat was going to sink, or, well, whether they thought the boat was going to sink or not, I don't know. Every single boat was washed up on a shore somewhere. Okay. So what that tells you is there was no need to leave the boat.
Yeah. I'm guessing the reality of being out there will feel like right now it's all rational thinking, it's all like clear, calm, like what if. I can imagine though after 40 days you won't be thinking straight. Yeah. Well, do you know what? Not a part of me thinks you can't do it, not one bit, because I know you. I know how you can push yourself. I think the thing for me is, like, again, the thing I really want to pick your brains on is like why you would do it.
Well, do you know what? There's two completely independent reasons for that. One of them's just a personally sort of selfish reason, or not necessarily selfish, but certainly a self-focused reason. And the second one is the raising the money for charity. So the first one is because personally, life's an adventure. Mm-hmm. What's the point in going into your box at the end of all of this looking like you've never been taken out of the wrapping paper?
Okay, yeah. Well, there's a good reason, yeah.
And I can't really see. A load of people, they get to 85 years old, but they haven't lived 85 years. They've probably lived 10 years, 8.5 times over. They've not had different experiences. They've not experienced different things. Almost like the thought of knowing what I'm going to do next year scares me to death. But why not? You know, and there's a guy local. There's a guy local to here. I think he lives in Warwick. A guy called Steve Sidaway, who he's a mole catcher. He used to be a policeman. He's now retired. He basically, if you've got a problem with moles, he'll deal with it. And he came out to do some work in our garden, and I got chatting to him. And I just got back from the MDS, and he was talking to me about the MDS, saying, "Oh, I really wanted to do that, but my knees are knackered. I can't do it. What I want to do is row an ocean." And then he came back the next year, and he'd done it. And he told me this story about how that there was a phone call came in from the race HQ, because he did the race, that had said the nearest people to you right now are on the International Space Centre. I was like, well, that's pretty cool. So there's that side of it. There's a side of it all encapsulated in the adventure, which is, I mean, you just said to me now, rightly so, put your phone on airplane mode because you're going to get a phone call within an hour. Yeah, of course I am. And there'll be WhatsApp, there'll be all of that nonsense. Taking yourself out of that. For you went to Iceland, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that was a massive detox. So there's an element of that to it. But I also think it's very, very easy to go through your life in a sort of sea of comfiness, as opposed to really, really breaking yourself down to bare basics to see what you're capable of, and equally what you're not. So there's a good reason. And the second reason is, as I think, well, as you certainly know, a friend of mine's son died of meningitis 17 years ago when he was only 3 years old, and we've raised a lot of money for meningitis now, which is a charity that Rod is on a board of trustees of. And he was very, very specific as to which charity he wanted to get involved with. He wanted to be a charity that doesn't, have a chief exec that's earning tons and tons of money. I'm sinking down again. I'm going to put it up.
Yeah.
And I remember Lucy phoned me. Lucy, my wife, phoned me. She was my girlfriend at the time, and said, "Oh, Barney's in hospital. They think he's got meningitis." And I remember at the time saying to Lucy, "Oh, he's in hospital. Oh, well, that's okay then." And it wasn't okay, and quite often, when I think about all of what we're doing and the money that we've raised, it's those words that I always think of. Oh, that's okay then, but it's not okay. With something like meningitis, it's really not okay. So, however much money we ever raise, it will never be enough, because what if the additional pound that you could have raised stopped someone else from dying? So, if you put the two together, which is want to experience absolutely everything, I want to show my kids that they can do anything. Just because don't be limited by what other people think that they're limited by. I've got people saying to me, "This is insane. Why are you doing it? You can't do that." And actually what people probably mean is that they can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So, and I saw this when I joined you with CV34.
Yeah.
Right? What typically happened, not because there was quite a few people that I knew who went through CV34 all very successfully. And what happened was, to start off with, everyone took the piss out of them. And then by the end of it, everyone was like, oh, maybe I should try this myself or something. Do you know what I mean? I think...
Yeah, it always starts with like, why are you doing that? And then usually it's like, how did you do it?
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. I think what interests me with you though, since I've met you, you've always tapped into events that like bring out tremendous amounts of pain. So even like, do you remember the hill that we used to run? Like even that, you had to literally, you run until you would drop.
I remember the first time I did that, and I was sat in your reception. Afterwards. I thought I was going to puke.
I thought you were going to puke too. Yeah, I was worried about my floor actually at that point. Yeah, but do you remember the first time? I think the first session we did, you said, "I'm doing this 10k Regency run the next day," and this was when you deemed yourself out of shape, 2 stone overweight, really unfit. And I said, I'm doing that Regency run too. And I was trim at the time, fit as fuck. I was 6 or something. I was at my peak. So I said, I'll see you there tomorrow, Dunk. Anyway, I'm doing that last K. I'm on for my PB of sub 50, thinking I'm crushing it, but I'm dying, man. I'm like, I've really got to work hard. I feel like puking. I'm pushing. And then I feel this tap on my shoulder, and it's you.
Yeah, I remember.
And you wave at me and go, "You're right, mate," and run past me. And I'm like, what the fuck? This guy's just started training. And even at your worst, you were smashing like 40-odd minute 10Ks or something.
Yeah. But to be fair, I always ran as a kid, so you probably build a bit of an engine.
But you know how, like, when I meet a lot of guys, loads of guys say to me, "Yeah, I used to be a pretty good runner back in the day." None of them were.
Yeah.
And then one guy comes along who actually was, like yourself. And then, yeah, you experience that and you hear the times. Like, I think you mentioned something like a 38 10K? 38 minutes 10K?
No,
bit
probably
less.
a little bit quicker than that.
Well, 32 then was the other one that jumped out my head. Anyway,
I never went that quick.
It was fast.
Yeah.
It was fast. And that's what most people do in 5K. But even then, you used to love the pain. You used to
liked that.
ask me to make it as hard as I possibly could.
Yeah, but the thing was, though, and that was what I found quite interesting coming to see you, is there's different sorts of pain, though, isn't there? Like leg day. Oh, my God.
Oh, that's a point. Yeah, you were terrible at that.
Leg day. And
you used to run like a bitch, and I used to think, Dunk, you do bloody ultra marathons.
I know, but then we'd be on the sled, and and you're just like, everything's burning, and it's horrible. I think do you know what? I never really thought about this. Why do the pain thing? Probably just because it makes you feel like you're working.
Yeah. It does. And what I like about pain is, like, you don't think about anything else. Like you say, that distraction or that present moment. Like when you're rowing, you're not going to be thinking about the email you've got to reply to at work.
No, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? You're not going to think about keeping the missus happy at that point. Any of that stuff doesn't exist.
No.
It's just proper present moment.
Yeah, and then, I mean, I remember when... I'm also very super competitive with myself.
Yeah.
So the minute you got me on that hill... And it was like, right, we've got a time now. Do you remember you had the gym timer?
Yeah.
And I remember setting it to a bleep. So right, next week I want to do it in 8 minutes 40. So what's that per leg?
Yeah.
And working it backwards and setting the beep so that I knew if I was.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the pain's just a means to an end, isn't it? What's great is seeing progress. That's what's really great.
Yeah, which is often found after some form of struggle or adversity or pain. That's really when you think what happens. So when you finish this challenge, you're going to think how much mentally and physically tougher you're going to be. Yeah, a lot more. And every hill represents that for me. Every time you leg up that hill, you are a little bit fitter and stronger. But there's a price to pay, and that's pain.
Yeah. With that, yeah. I think the challenge is the biggest challenge. Well, not the biggest challenge, but one of the big challenges with this row is going to be dealing with it mentally when we get back. So when I did the MDS, I went into a whole of sort of low level depression when I got back, because that was something that I'd wanted to do for 20 years.
So for people listening, we should probably say that that's the Marathon Des Sables.
Yeah,
that's 6 marathons. Is that right? Back to back?
It's
or the equivalent distance.
It's basically 7 marathons in 6 days.
7 marathons across the Sahara Desert.
Yeah.
I was watching a documentary on this last week to prepare for this, and it was insane. They just at the end of the day they announced, so and so's died. Unfortunately, it's really really sad. But tomorrow we crack on. Boom.
There was recently a couple of years ago, I think there was a few, probably 3 or 4 people that died. It was an unusually hot year, but I'd read about that in the late 90s. And was like, I always want to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this one day. And then life sort of got in the way. The truth of it was, all my 20s were just spent pissing it up. Playing rugby at a low level, and I wasn't actually very good. But I loved the social scene. I loved having all of my mates. It was brilliant, sort of being part of something. We played at a pretty low level, and I was one of the weaker players in the team, if I was in the team. But the sort of mates that came with it were amazing. And then rugby's at any level, rugby's a pretty boozy sport. So the chances of ever doing anything running wise, whilst that was going on in my life, was pretty slim. Then stopped playing rugby, and then had kids. and then life's pretty. Your life becomes quite small when you have the kids because there's just nappies to change and feeds to do, and it's just very tiring. And then there was always a reason for not doing it. And then the kids got a little bit older, and I remember saying to Luce, "Look, what do you think? I want to do this. It's going to be quite intense. The training. It's going to knock out quite a lot of time." Luce was like, "Yeah, fair dues. If you want to do it, crack on. Let's make it happen." So I'd wanted to do that for about 20 years in the end. I was 40 when I did it, and I remember I think I was 20 when I first read about it.
Okay.
So then you focus on doing this, then you do it, and you get back the other end. What are you going to do now?
It's a Tyson Fury situation, isn't it? Wanting the heavyweight bout of boxing for all those years, gets it, falls into the heaviest depression of his life. That conversation with Lucy, is that how it went? Or was it like, I'm doing the Marathon Des Sables? Because I was speaking to, I had a podcast before you today, Arjuna, and he was talking about his desire and dream to be a full-time writer. But being a full-time writer is like, you don't earn much money, so obviously kids, the wife probably won't have much of that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, we need to live. I was like, at what point do you, like, in a relationship, do you say, no, I'm doing this, versus the conversation of like, can I do this?
But I think it depends on the relationship, doesn't it? It depends on how you work as people. Luce and I are a rock solid team, but then we were, I wasn't say quite old when we got together. Maybe not. I mean, we weren't. I was 24. She was 26. She'd always played netball and done sport. I'd always played rugby and sort of done sport. So whilst we're sort of rock solid as a team, we've also got our own lives. So she's got her own mates, and she'll go out with her own mates. I'll go out with my own mates. And I think we just know your other half, don't you? In that it wasn't a massive surprise when I said I wanted to do it, because she knew that I'd always loved my running. It was a different conversation about the row.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, there's genuine threat there, let's face it. Like, I mean, we can put a positive spin on it all day, which we will, but there is real danger to it.
Yeah.
There's real danger to it. And you're away for 40 odd days. That's another consideration, right? You're not around, Dad's not about.
Yeah, I mean, when you're starting a conversation with, I phoned my life insurance and checked that this is covered. And the truth of it is, I wouldn't be doing this row. I would not entertain it if I thought there was a realistic chance of there being a major problem. Now, of course, there's a bigger chance of there being a problem there than sat on the sofa at home.
Sure.
But when you look at it and you look at all of the if you look at all of the different procedures that are in place, so you've got a boat that is unsinkable. I know you could say, well, yeah, but if you look at the way they're built, they are unsinkable.
Okay.
So you've got a cabin at each end of the boat,
mm-hmm.
which is where you sleep, and provided the hatches are closed, they provide an airlock, which means that if the boat capsizes, which it possibly will, it will right itself. It just physically can't stay the wrong way up. So that's one thing. You then factor in that you've got a belt around your waist with a tether to a jackstay that runs the length of the boat. So if you get thrown out of the boat, you just pull yourself back in.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So beyond that, it's interesting. What you talk about a lot now. This is more of a mental thing than a physical thing.
I think it's going to be, for sure. Yeah, especially after a certain period of time.
Yeah, and the thing that I've always been fairly fortunate at is, and I remember doing this with you, is just flicking the switch and just switching off and saying, you just got to put up with this.
Yeah, I think this will be the best test for you, though, because it's over a period of 40 days.
Yeah.
So that's lonely. I know you're there with three other guys.
It's basically Lent.
Yeah, exactly right. But like I say, you're giving up a lot. You're sacrificing a lot. Just communication and family.
But don't you think, though? Sorry, but don't you think, like, if you had said to me 3 years ago, 40 days, and it could be longer. It could be longer. If everything goes against you, if the winds are against you, the tides are against you. There's a documentary. There was 4 ladies. I think it's called 4 Mums in a Boat.
Okay.
They did it. Oh God, it's probably 10 years ago now. They hit such bad weather that they had to hole up in the cabin for 4 days each. Sorry, for 4 days, all of them in these cabins. And these cabins are like a car boot, literally car boot. So it could be even longer. But that's the beauty of the challenge, though, isn't it?
It is. I think all the best things have an element of risk and fear. But if you look at, okay, so what's the alternative? Let's look at depression let's even just look at the average guy who's not happy with his life right now. Yeah. Usually it's because he chases too much pleasure and comfort. Usually. So if you think...
What do you mean by that?
So what I mean is he'll avoid the things that he knows are going to test him. So he won't...
But that's comfort, though, isn't it?
Yes. So that's what I mean. That's that's what most people think they want.
Well, what most people do, I think, and I actually put this on LinkedIn last week. I realised that what most people do, myself included, what you do is you seek safe choices. You seek activities that confirm what you're already good at. Yeah. Like me trying to run a quicker 10K. I mean, I'm 44 now, so I'm not going to go quicker than I have. Low down. Well, that's just refining something that you're already good at.
Yeah, but that's what most would do, right?
Yeah, well,
that would be what I call like difficult easy. It's tough, but for you, it's kind of not.
But if you look at me, right, I'm 5'9" on a good day.
Yeah,
right?
you're hardly built as a rower, mate.
Yeah, I'm not a rower.
I didn't want to say, but
yeah, but it's worth looking. There's a video of Eddie Hall. Right, on a rowing machine.
Yeah.
And he does the 100 metres. He's not a rower.
Yeah.
He breaks the world record for the 100 metres on a rowing machine.
No way. Yeah. What's that, though? 20 seconds? I think 15 seconds?
Something like that. Yeah. And he just pulls the thing apart because he's so strong.
Okay.
I'm not.
Yeah.
And for me, this is quite liberating, doing something that I'm shit at. You know, my fighting weight is probably 12 stone. But it's not going to be about that. It's going to be about process. It's going to be about managing the situation, managing the process. You've got 2 hours on, 2 hours off. At the end of every 2 hours, you're going to need to clean yourself down to get all the salt off, so that you don't get salt sores. Eat your food, go to sleep, repeat.
Wow.
But that, if you break it down, that's all right. It's just trust the process. I remember you saying this to me with training, which is stop worrying about 10 weeks' time. Just worry about the next session. Yeah.
When you visualise how it's going to be, are you going to allow like really horrible visualisations to cross your mind? Because again, I was doing a bit of study about this and how people who do marathons, for example, they're told to visualise crossing the line and getting that medal, when in reality you should be visualising your calves cramping up, like you wanting to quit. Because then when it happens, you're okay with it.
Well, you've got strategies then, haven't you?
Yeah, and you're prepared for it. You're like, yeah, I know, this is it, bring it on. Rather than that whole, it's going to be amazing when I finish. Well, hold on, there's 40 days of grit to get through.
But I think you, for me at least, you've got to embrace that, because the people who work with me get bored of me saying this. One of my stock phrases is, look, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah, but these cliches are so true.
Yeah, and that's the reason they're cliches.
Yeah, yeah, but they're said so many times we don't really pay attention to them, but they all hold some merit.
Yeah.
Don't they?
And I think I saw something. I'm not going to get all political on it, but I read what I thought was quite an amusing quote about Boris Johnson, where someone said, Boris Johnson always wanted to be Prime Minister, and he always wanted to have been Prime Minister. It's just the actual being Prime Minister he got a bit of a problem with. Yeah. But I think that's whether that's true of him or not is immaterial. But I think that can't be true of this, because if we're not careful, everyone wants to say that they're going to row an ocean, and everyone wants to say that they have rowed an ocean, but you've got to actually enjoy rowing the ocean.
Well, I think the challenge you've taken on, it forces you, like, you've got to row the ocean. Same as when you're in the middle of the Sahara Desert. I think you're a burn the boats kind of guy. Like, you're all in.
Yeah, you've got to be all in.
Yeah, but there's no option. So I think for a lot of people, there's easy ways out. So if I went for a 10K run on my own, Duncan, if I wanted to stop, I could. Whereas you can't stop halfway across the Atlantic Ocean when there's 3 other people counting on you and a charity. So I think what you've done is layered so much accountability on there and pressure.
But don't you think that's what you get with a PT to a certain extent?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what you pay for.
To a certain extent, and I'm not demeaning the craft of PTing at all. But if I think an awful lot of what you're paying for with a PT is someone that's there. I remember you sending me a message saying, Dunk, my first session with you was at 5 a.m. 5 a.m. Now, I'm not an early riser. I've always been. I work late, but I don't get up particularly early. And I remember getting up at like 4:30 to come and see you at 5 a.m. and whether it was some kind of like test you were putting me through. Probably. But I remember finishing that, driving home, and I was destroyed.
Yeah.
But then there's no way on earth if I'd said I'm going to go to the gym at 5 a.m. on my own, I just wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I don't mind slating the PT industry a little bit. You're right. You don't have to be anything special to be a good PT. You have to having a personality helps, and holding you accountable is another good thing.
But I think you gelled. We gelled particularly
Absolutely,
well.
Yeah, but that was because of your attitude. Like, you were so hungry to get, and you had the same drive as I did. Like, me and you were never not going to get that great transformation. Because
Yeah,
I wouldn't allow anything else, nor would you. It was always going to happen.
But it took me a while to get there.
It did, but you were compliant.
No, but I remember that 2 weeks into it, 2 weeks into it, thinking I'd cheat the system, and just being, and I can't remember what it was. I think I'd eaten something like a bread roll, a beef roll for lunch, and you said to me, I got to your place, and you said to me, "What did you eat for lunch?" And I went, and you said, "You're fucking lying." I know what you're going to say is a lie. It's taken you too long to answer. You know what you had for lunch. You're trying to think of something that's healthier.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's true.
Yeah, you were way too slow. You should have had your answer prepared.
I should have prepared
if it was a
my
lie.
lie.
Yeah, definitely. Like, to sit there, you were like that. What can I say? I was like, I've seen all these tricks 100 times.
So I think you're right, but I think I just the accountability thing's right. I remember doing a not long after I got together with Luce. Her auntie had very sadly died of leukemia not long before we got together, and she said that Lucy wanted to do a parachute jump, not a skydive, a parachute jump. She wanted to do that to raise some money, and I said, well, okay, well, I'll do it with you. And we didn't do a tandem. We did what's called a static line, which is basically you jump out of the plane on your own, and a cord is attached to your parachute, and it's attached to the plane. So when you get, I don't know, 20 feet beneath the plane, that cord pulls. So it's safe. And I remember jumping out the plane thinking, and I was shit scared. I mean, I'm scared of heights. To be fair, that's not, it's just really fucking high once you get that high. But I remember jumping out the plane and thinking, oh, well, at least I've jumped. No matter what happens now, at least I've jumped. And it's kind of like that. I'm super excited about that first oar stroke out of Gran Canaria, because then brilliant. Now it's on. Now we're doing it. And then, the accountability thing. You're right. I've done that in the past. You layer it up. I layer it up and layer it up.
Yeah, there's levels.
Because I'm worried that if I don't, maybe part of me's lazy.
Yeah, the charity one's the biggest one for me. Once you've took money off people, and once you've, like you say, once you find a cause, like you'll die for it. I know that sounds extreme, but it'll be hard for you on that road.
Hopefully not.
No, but you know what, mate? I know this, like I say, I know you've got a wife and kids, but for you to stop rowing, I know you'll have to be in a very bad place.
Yeah, but that's part of it. Being in that bad place is part of it. Because actually, do you know what? Being in that bad a place physically is actually quite a privilege. Like, I really believe this. Because not many people do it. And not many people experience that.
No.
And, we've all been there on, being really tired. There's quite an interesting experiment that was done. I don't know the exact details, but I think a sports scientist and a psychologist got a group of people together in the States. You're talking probably 25 years ago, and said, get on that exercise bike and cycle until you're totally knackered, can't do anything. And they did. And when they all just got off and they were like, can't cycle, totally bollocks, done. Get back on and do another 5 minutes. I can't, I'm bollocks. I'll give you $10,000 if you do it. Guess what? They did it. Yeah. Then he said, right, I'll give you another $5,000 if you do another minute. Guess what? They did it. Yeah. Because your brain always gives up.
Sure.
Before you do physically.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's quite a privileged position to put yourself in a place where you're like, Jesus, can I do this?
Surely when you come home from like Marathon Des Sables, like everything else, like forget the depression for a minute that you felt when you got back, but everything else must feel quite easy, like business and all that. It must feel easy after putting yourself through what you did.
No, I tell you what, more than that, a lot of it felt pointless.
After or during?
After. Like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
And that was. I remember mates saying to me, "Oh, did you go out and do? Did you fancy doing a 10k?" I was like, "No. What's the point in that?" And that wasn't arrogance. It was just I'd set the bar really, really high, doing that.
Yeah, of course.
So
yeah.
coming back, I couldn't really see the point in it. But this is what I was going to say. So you talk about 40 days. You say 40 days is a long time, right? If you had said to me 3 years ago, 40 days, and I remember when I got on board with you, and it's a 12-week plan. 12 weeks was like, fucking hell. That is an eternity, right? We've been through lockdown since then. 12 weeks is nothing.
Yeah, it is a long time, and it's not in the same sentence. 40 days.
It's not in that you're talking like a month and a bit, and before we know it's going to be Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah.
What spooks me, and it does, is I think what happened 40 days ago. You go back 40 days, what you talk, it starts September, right? I was, in like, Christ, that's a long time ago. And you say, okay, so all of the time since then to now, there's a 50% chance that I'll have been on the oars.
Yeah, which is insane. I think time shrinks though when you're in a lot of pain too. So if you take this to like a mindset position, when you feel like life's shit, often you can't, like, time shrinks down, you can't see beyond that, and you always think life's going to be like it. I can imagine there'll be times on that boat where you won't think about normal life, you'll just think this sucks, this is hard, and you won't be able to think past the pain. So again, things like that would help me, knowing that that's going to happen. You must have thought that in a desert, like, there must have been times when you're running in that desert and that's all that exists. But in the desert feeling that pain.
Isn't that the privilege?
I think so, yeah.
Because, and this is where it's actually, and I am ridiculously lucky to be married to Luce. Like, I've got a lot of mates' wives, and let's not be too sexist about it. It works both ways. A lot of female mates whose husbands would just be like, absolutely not.
No, I don't know. I don't know. How many? Let's take the average guy who's 4 stone overweight.
Who's what?
4 stone overweight, right? And probably their missus complains that they don't get jobs done around the house and they watch too much TV and they drink beer. Surely if that guy stepped up and went, I'm doing the Marathon Des Sables, even if they were like not happy with it, there'd be an element of respect there. Surely.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do know what you mean. But with it comes if I'm going to do that, like, I remember training for the MDS in particular, but if you're marathon training, just regular marathon, I'm not saying that like doing it down. But if you're regular marathon training, you're going to be out for like 3.5 hours on a Sunday,
sure,
or Saturday, or whatever. You would be doing your long run, and I'd get back from these runs absolutely wrecked. I'd get back, and then the first thing I would do, and you remember this, first thing I would do is I'd get in, go to the house, go to the fridge, I'd get 2 cans of full fat Coke, nail them, and then do about 200 grams of mature cheddar cheese, right? Every time.
I didn't know about that. I thought it was mini eggs. Yeah.
But then what I'd do is I'd then go and get in the bath, and I'd be in the bath for about an hour.
Yeah.
Then get out of the bath and be useless for another couple of hours. So if you add it all together, you're basically saying to your partner, I'm useless all day Sunday. So there is an opportunity cost, and there is collateral damage of doing all this. And what I mean is, I'm with you in that, God, being on a boat, right, with mates, and they are mates that I'm going with, being on a boat with mates. I've seen footage of whales following these boats, of shooting stars and all this. Now, I know it's going to be shit at times, but the good outweighs the bad. Doing that and having someone that signs off on it and says, yeah, you want to do this. I remember saying to Luce, look, I know how lucky I am that you're behind this. And Luce said to me, look, I'd never ever stop you from doing something that you really want to do. So it is a privilege.
Yeah,
it'll be tough, but the tough bit. Otherwise, this is basically what's the alternative? Go on a lads' holiday for 40 days.
Yeah, but we laughing. But yeah, that is the alternative. And the thing, going back to that marathon thing about like being out the house for 4 hours or not being around or present. For me though, that's so much healthier, being out running and setting a good example, than it is like hanging around the house on a Sunday, pretending you're at home, but like watching a bit of TV, checking your phone, doing some emails, because you're not really there anyway. Do you know what I mean? So you can be at home.
That's an interesting term. I like that. Pretending you're at home.
Yeah,
because you can be there, but I'm awful for it.
Of course,
I am on my laptop all the time.
Yeah,
because it just checking on work. And Millie, our daughter, she's a bit older. She's quite self-sufficient. She's 11, we're now at the stage where she sort of just wants to be in a bedroom. Ted will quite often say to me, "Can you put your laptop away now?" And every time he says it, it's humbling. Every time you're like, "Oh God, worst dad ever." And I think that I read this once about how if you're not careful, you convince yourself that you're working really hard and spending the hours doing that for your kids. You're not. You're doing it for yourself.
Sure.
The kids don't give a shit if you've got another. Broadly speaking, if you've got another bit of money in the bank, they don't really care. What they care about is you spending time with them, showing them that you love them, and just engaging with them.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. My friend Paul Foster, who's got a Michelin star restaurant, says he worked so hard for that Michelin star. Yeah, his kids, when he told his kids, they were just like, "Oh, that's cool." That was it. He was like, "They do not give a fuck. They just want to be with me. They just want my time.
Yeah.
They just want to be around Dad." But looking like from a kid's perspective, like what's healthier? Dad's missing for 4 hours because he's training to row the Atlantic, or Dad's on his computer again.
I think the thing for me is what we want to do is we want physical activity and a sense of adventure to be just part of our kids' life.
Yeah.
So we a few oh God, when was it? I can't remember when it was, but we took the kids up Snowdon.
Yep.
So we went up Snowdon.
Oh, you sent me a picture, yeah.
Yeah. So we went up the Lambous Path up to Snowdon, and I think Ted was 7, and Millie would have been probably 10 or 11, and we went up top, and it was brutal. We chose the wrong route up. We should have probably done the pig track up, which is shorter but a bit steeper. I think they'd have found that easier. And we sat there, and I really wanted this to be something that I could use with them moving forward. Say, look, remember Snowdon? Remember when you thought you couldn't do it, and you did? But even knowing that, we were on the path on the way up, and some people came down, and they said, it's hairy at the top. It's really hairy at the top. And they were like, "Oh, we don't think you should do it." And that was quite interesting, actually, because we kept on going. But at that point, we had that conversation. I said, "Can we see the summit from here?" And this lady said, yeah, you see right over there. And I looked at that and I thought, the kids aren't going to do this. But they did do it. And what was interesting is we got to the top, because this woman had said, "Oh, there's no one at the top." We got to the top. There was actually quite a few people at the top. What had happened was they'd turned round, but they wanted us to turn around as well, so that they felt better about turning around.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
But the kids then, so they went up Snowdon, and we had a few tears.
I was going to say, did they want to do it, or is this good parenting where you go, "Come on, you can do it. It's going to be worth it"? Like, because kids usually fight that pain feeling, don't they? And they want it to stop.
They we stopped a lot. We stopped frequently. We had snacks. I mean, at the top, it was when just as we came down off the top, this sort of horizontal hail came in, and that was awful.
So what do you do at that point if the kids go, "Oh, Daddy, can we please go back down?"
Yeah, well, we were going down. We were going down there. Okay. But that was amazing. So it's I can't remember exactly how far it was, but I've got mates in their 40s that couldn't do that, and the kids did it when they were young. So now it's also that I think they can always feel like physical activity is part of life, as opposed to, "Oh, I'm doing this because I've got to do this."
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, we'll just yeah. Go on.
Duncan's daughter's just arrived. Sorry, don't worry.
Yeah, so it's not so.
Contact my mate.
What it was about for us is, I remember someone saying to me, and it's a very demeaning expression, but "monkey see, monkey do."
Yeah.
If the kids see you, behave in a certain way, they will. Yeah. I was at one of Ted's football matches the other day, and the parents on the sideline from the Oppo, one in particular was shocking. Like,
in what way?
Just like, I mean, he thought he was being really positive, and he was being really positive, but micromanaging the kids, screaming at the kids, "Do this," running up and down. And I was like, it was the FA Cup final. It's like, mate, they're under 8s. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And the point of it is, the chances of any of those kids being professional footballers, 0. All right, not 0, but close to 0.
Yeah.
The chances of any of those kids learning life lessons from what they're observing from the dads on the sideline, very high.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's the same as that. And with the kids, we just want the kids to naturally feel like that they move, and they're moving and staying active, not because I've got to go to the gym because I want to lose weight. I mean, I worry a lot. I really worry about our kid generation coming through. I worry about the and it's it's a well trodden path to this conversation, but I worry about the Insta influence in terms of what their perception of what they look like.
Yeah.
But if you've got a lifestyle that means that you're healthy because you enjoy that lifestyle, happy days, as opposed to just doing stuff because you want to burn fat miserably.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And to be fair, you have got reasons to worry because data kind of backs it up now. So obviously your kids will never experience life, for example, without an iPhone and stuff. It's that generation, it's just normal. Instagram is normal. For us, it was new. It was something. And
you're trying to explain to the kids that's not real.
I know.
There's a filter on that. They've shot the lighting. It's not real. And I could see the kids already almost counting how many likes they're getting on stuff. Upload something to Insta and it caught in the popularity.
Yeah. Well, I think most adults are too.
Oh yeah.
A teenage brain.
I've been really guilty of that.
Yeah. It must happen on LinkedIn as well, right? Like, it's nice to see that it's got views, and it's nice if people engage. It is. It's quite the word humbling when you write something, and when you put out what you would call a great post or whatever, and then nobody fucking gives it the attention of day. And yeah, you catch yourself sometimes like checking it to see whether it's been received well.
But what is LinkedIn all about anymore?
I'm not on it. I'm not on it. Do you know what? I found it really dull and boring. And a bit pretentious, I got to admit.
But if you look at what LinkedIn's for, it was originally to connect people. Then it's sort of become a means for people to advance their careers or their business. Yeah, all good. But the shit that goes on there, that's almost like clickbait.
Yeah.
And I follow an account on Twitter. I think it's called The State of LinkedIn. It's amazing. It just like highlighting some stuff that people put on. Like, what are you putting that on for?
Yeah. I catch myself first though, because there's things I put on. I'm like, if I really stopped and went, why am I putting this on? I probably wouldn't put it on.
Yeah, yeah.
Like this morning, I put a post of me and Arjuna, my friend who did the podcast earlier, eating some bacon and eggs. I'm like, yeah. After I thought, why? Yeah. Like, well, I mean, it's nice to grab a picture for the memory bank, but who gives a shit?
Yeah. No, agreed. But if you're not careful, social media is a weird phenomenon. Because I'm fairly active on social media, right? And people have said to me in the past, "Oh yeah, you love your Facebook," and this is people who are on Facebook but never post, right?
Lurkers, yeah.
But I'll be like,
spend more time on it than most.
Yeah, and I'll say to them, "Hang on a minute. If it wasn't for people posting, you'd have nothing to look at."
That's true.
So
I'm doing you a favour. Say thank you.
It sort of works both ways.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be a twat about it and posting ridiculous stuff, which I have certainly been guilty of, and I am sure will be guilty of again. It's a bit like, it's just like being with a group of friends and saying something you think's funny or that's you, and everyone's like, what? But on social media, before you know it, it's blown up.
Yeah, no, I know. I'd say out of the 5, like if I was to label 5 things that I've done that have been good for my mental health, and as someone who's struggled with it, I'd definitely say like getting rid of the apps off my phone has been a great thing to do over the last 2 years. Getting rid of LinkedIn, getting YouTube off my phone, stuff like that has been really helpful. Because again, anything, all that stuff's just a distraction. So it takes you away from adventure. The adventure we're talking about, it can literally, like, you can lose time, you can lose days, you can lose months and years, and you're not even awake to it. You don't even know it's happening. That's the danger.
I'd love to see stats on the amount of time people spend like this on their phone.
Well, I started working with a guy who was doing 10.5 hours a day.
No.
Yeah, seriously. Which sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he was shocked when he saw it. But if you think he emails off his phone, he texts off his phone, he works off his phone, WhatsApp, YouTube, like everything he did, he discovered was on his phone or his laptop. Everything, screen, big screen, small screen. But as soon as he became aware of it, he was like, well, I don't want to be the guy that spends 11 hours on my.
But back to your point about pretending to be at home, that's the beauty of kids, because kids will call you out on it, and kids are totally, without sounding silly about it, totally pure in that they're not like Ted. Our son Ted is 8, right?
Yeah.
And if we're say watching a film on a Friday night, and then you pick your phone up, he'll go,
yeah,
and He's only 8, but he's switched on enough to know that if you're looking at that, you're not really in this with me.
Yeah.
And then you think, well, yeah, that's fair. And like I say, I am a shocker for my laptop, and I'll convince myself I'm doing it. And some of it, you've got your own business. Some of the time, you're like, I've got to do this now. And realistically, some of the time you have, but some of the time I have not. Most of the time I have not. And it's about being better disciplined.
Ted won't care about your feelings yet either, so he'll say something that's just truth.
Yeah.
Whereas an adult would think, well, I better think about how it's going to make him feel first.
Yeah. How am I going to phrase this?
Yeah. Whereas kids just go, or, can you come off your laptop now, please? Yeah. So honest. I don't know when that changes, but it does.
I'm sure there's some. You get emotional intelligence at a certain point. And you think, I don't want to say that because he might.
I know, but the truth is the truth, right? That's why we all love kids, because they just fucking say it how it is.
Yeah.
Don't
yeah.
they?
100%.
They're brutal.
Yeah.
And they make us laugh as well, kids. When when they say something that's true, but it sounds inappropriate.
Yeah. And all they're doing is saying something that you think you wouldn't say. Yeah,
absolutely. So something I've done with mum and dad, obviously, like, I know you've been through the parent stuff, right? It's tough. Like, you want to make the most of the time when you're with them. So every Thursday now, we spend time together and my phone's off for the whole day. And it was hard at first, because in my head it was like, well, you should be working, you've got this to do, you've got that to do. But now it's just the habit of doing it. And I'm actually like with them now when I spend time with them, because I used to start with them, but I'd be checking my phone every 10 minutes. So I was like, well, I might as well just fucking work. Do one or the other. Do you know what I mean? Do whatever you're going to do it well.
Yeah, and do it and do it quality. And Lucy is without doubt, the most. Well, I mean, you know Lucy, right? Yeah. Lucy's the most hardworking, disciplined person I've ever met, actually. She's also could be quite brutal. If she listens to this, she'll be like, but what she'll do is whatever she's doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm awful for faffing. So if I go in the gym, we've got a gym in the garage at home. If I go in the gym, it will be 15 minutes before I'm actually working out, right? Okay. Because I'll have been faffing with sorting my music, just
procrastinating.
Yeah, just procrastinating and thinking about it rather than doing it. If Lucy's doing it, she goes in, does it.
But do you not think this is what these events make you do? Like, you can't do any of that shit that you're saying.
Yeah. And I remember you. I remember having a conversation with you 10 years ago about consistency beats intensity every time, and that's what Lucy does. She's consistent. Yeah. And we'll go out. We'll have a late night on the source. Not get to bed till late. If she's meant to be in the gym in the morning,
she's still in the gym.
She's in the gym in the morning, and not like half an hour late. She'll be, and it'll be, well, I need to be in the gym now because this is the window that I've got, because I then need to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not that disciplined, which is why my weight yo-yos. But that's also why I need to do things like a row, a marathon, or the MDS, or whatever it may be, to give me a goal that keeps me on the tracks.
Yeah.
And I really struggled in lockdown, because I was entering marathons as a target, and seemingly like you entered one, and then I was like, brilliant, I'll get a month into training for it. Then it got skittled by COVID restrictions. And then I'm not the sort of person that is personally disciplined enough to, if left to my own devices, do it. So what I do is I almost like mentally, back to your point about accountability, will build a framework around myself, which is, right, well, I'm going to do this, and this is the process that needs to happen to make it happen. And that becomes the discipline.
Yeah.
But what I am good at is following that process. Which is like when you said to me, right, this is what you're doing. You're coming in, you're training with me 3 times a week. You're not going to be eating shit. I remember you saying to me, well, how much are you drinking? And I was like, well, not that much. And then you said to me, it was reasonable. You said, look, 1 night a week, that is it, and not stupid amounts. And guess what? It worked. When we had that conversation about how so many of your clients, their weight would come down in a week and then go up at the weekend. And I remember you saying to me, well, why don't you just get rid of that going up at the weekend and have it going down? Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, fucking hell, that's an idea.
Yeah, my style's changed a lot. I used to be really relentless and brutal back in the day. And it worked whilst people were with me, but then when I was not there, people would go back to their old ways. So I had to find smarter ways of getting people to change, kind of thing. It's like the nutrition. Like, that I could give you the world's best nutrition plan, and then call you up every day and go, Duncan, Duncan, Duncan. But that wouldn't work when I wasn't around. So it's trying to get people to make the changes.
I think it depends on the individual, though. Like, we know there's people who went through what you did, that then at the end of it, you see them 12 months down the line, and it's like never happened.
Yeah,
but
worse.
Yeah, I guess.
Or worse.
But equally, I loved it. Yeah. I absolutely loved it. So I think it depends on the individual. But I that level, it worked for me. And the one that I enjoyed even more was the one when I phoned you up and said, I'd done the 12-week plan. I phoned you up and said, look, I'm really bored. I want to do something. And we had 11 weeks till Christmas. Do you remember? And I said, let's just do something. What do you reckon? And you said, look, I reckon you can put on quite a bit of muscle, which for me isn't a lot because I'm not really very big. And I trained with you, and you said, right, don't run. You're not to run because that's going to go completely against the plan. And after 3, and I was still running.
Yeah, I know.
And I say to you, no, I'm not running. And after 3 weeks, you weighed me, and you said, you're still fucking running. I know you're running. And I was like, how does he know these things? And you said, you should have put on muscle, and you haven't, and it's because you're burning it.
Yeah.
So I did stop running, and at the end of that was the best nick I've ever been in. And then I ran and set my half marathon PB that I've never beaten, and I hadn't even run.
Isn't that crazy? People forget the role that strength plays in running.
Well, anything, I guess.
Yeah, and not just the mental strength, the physical strength is, but it is an important part of the game. So definitely.
But I was all in on that, and that was the key. I remember, and the thing was, God, it was expensive. The food. I remember having steak for breakfast.
Well, you had to pay me and get all the food. Yeah, it weren't cheap.
So
but you're not good in the middle, are you?
No.
Like, you don't like flirting.
No, I've always said, and Lucy's very steady and consistent. There's no volume control with me. It's either on or off.
I think that's a man thing as well. They're more extreme in business too.
Yeah,
it's like, unless they're going to build a fucking really good business, they just don't. They don't bother. They don't want something in between.
No, yeah, I'm certainly like that, and with that comes problems.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But with it comes purpose too.
Yeah.
Like, men need a purpose. They don't always find it in the healthiest ways, but if a man hasn't got any direction or aim is a funny one though, because aim leads to more aim. So the physical challenge, it's like, well, what do you do after the row? It's like, what crazy fucking shit do you get cooked up then?
Yeah.
That's the danger. So Lucy's probably sitting there going, what the fuck's he going to do next? And that's how we're known as guys. What's he going to do next?
And I do get that a lot. There'll be just an eye roll of, what we're going to do next.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's keep it in perspective. I've not done that much. There's people I met a couple on the training that we did last week, the survival at sea training. He was a bit older than her. He was probably mid-late 30s. She was probably mid-20s. He had rowed around Great Britain on his own, I think 4 years ago, he said.
Yeah.
He did it on his own, right? It took him, I think he said, 160 days.
Wow.
Right, on his own. And then he got together with his now girlfriend, and he still owned the boat, right? So she said, well, I really want to row the Atlantic. And he said to me in a quiet moment, he said, I didn't really want to fancy doing another row. He said, but Roz wants to do one, so we're doing it. And he said, what I wanted to do, I've got an old motorbike, I was repairing it, I was going to motorcycle around the world.
Oh.
And I was like, that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
That's someone who's not buying into what society thinks he should be doing.
Sure, yeah.
You know, he said he was an assistant producer, working in TV. So I don't know, and if he hears us, I hope I'm not making wrong assumptions, but I'm guessing the plan is work for a bit and then do what makes you happy. So the reason I reference that is there's people doing far cooler stuff than what I'm doing, and far bigger stuff. But
that's subjective though, isn't it? I mean, like, most people listening to this will be going, he's rowing the Atlantic fucking Ocean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's only in your world that because you've done all of this stuff before, right? It probably.
But I think what it is, it becomes quite addictive, and what happens is, in doing it, you meet people who've done other crazy stuff, and you're like, right, and once you've done. When I did the MDS, in the run up to the MDS, Lucy and I hadn't entered at this point. Lucy and I were on holiday in Cyprus, and I was like, right, I'm going to go running. I'm going to go out for a run. And I was fit. That was when I was training with you. I was really fit. Went out and ran, and it was about 35 degrees in Cyprus. It wasn't astonishingly hot. I mean, it was hot, but bear in mind it's 10 degrees hotter than that in the desert.
Yeah.
I went out running. After about a mile, I was done. Went home, tail between my legs, jumped straight in the swimming pool at the villa that we were in, wearing everything. Got out, said to Luce, well, I can't do it. You know, there's just no way I can run in this heat. And I sat there on my sun lounger afterwards, really down in the dumps, like, fucking hell, I've wanted to do this for so long, you know. And then I thought about it. I thought, well, hang on a minute. There's people doing this every year.
Yeah.
So if they can do it, why can I not do it? Granted, I've got sort of quite pasty skin, but it's got to be possible. So then when you do that and realise that's possible, and then you see, well, hang on, people are rowing across the Atlantic. Okay, great. Well, that's possible. And then, you know, one of the things that I've got on my list that I really want to do is I want to run Land's End to John O'Groats.
So you're already, so that'll be your next thing. You've already
probably
decided. Yeah.
But then you read it and you read, I can't remember what the world record is. But it's something like 8 days.
Okay.
For Land's End to John O'Groats. I mean, how's that even possible?
What's that? Over 1,000 miles or something?
It's about eight, depending on the route, about 800-ish.
Okay.
So someone's doing 100 mile a day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Which is crazy. I'm not sure my car would do that at the minute. You know what I mean?
Not mine, definitely wouldn't.
That's yeah, see, I can know you well. That's what you'll do.
Oh yeah, no,
you've already decided. Probably.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. But what I want to do with that,
Lucy, if you're listening to this, Duncan's.
I have mentioned it. I have mentioned it. But what I'd like to do with that is almost divide it up and say, my daughter's just going to walk in, so I'm going to tell her to be quiet. Millie, can you just sit down and be quiet? Okay. But what I want to do with that is say divide it up into something far more achievable, like 40 days, and get someone to run with me each day.
Yeah, okay.
Because I'm a massive believer.
Watch that camera, Millie. If you don't want to be sitting there, you'll be blocking the screen. Yeah. All right, so just pull that chair back.
What I want to do is like get it someone doing each day with me. So if you say
that'd be cool. Yeah.
Because I'm a massive believer in the power and importance of mates and teams.
Yeah.
And so let's do this as a group thing. I think that would be awesome.
That would be cool. Crazy depends who you hang out with. So if you're hanging out with people that are doing all this cycling, do you want to put that mic on the?
Sorry.
That's all right. You're crazy. Cool. We're good. Yeah. If you're hanging out with people that like do these things, you don't feel crazy. It feels normal. Like who you hang out with regularly becomes the norm. That's why everyone should have a look around them and see who they're hanging out. Because if you hang around with guys who go down the pub every Saturday, that is the normal thing, and it won't feel that it's anything like
without
different
a doubt.
to that.
No, without a doubt.
Yeah,
that you become normalised to your environment, don't you?
Yes, yeah, and your habits too.
I remember working somewhere, and we got into the habit of everyone working late, and I mean late, starting at like 8:30, finishing at 10 o'clock at night. But then it becomes the norm.
Yeah.
And then it's only when you mention it to someone else and they say, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
But that could be anything. That could be the amount you're drinking. That could be the amount.
Of course.
Millie, put your phone on silent, please. It could be any part of your life. It becomes normal because, and I think that's fair enough, isn't it?
It depends. It depends what you want. That's the justification. The problem with normal is you very rarely take the time to step back and question that behaviour because it's normal.
Yeah, but I guess what I mean is it's understandable that happens. In that we're all weird. You look at any family, and you could look at mine and think that's the way you do it. That's odd. I could look at someone else and think, that's the way you do it.
Yeah.
But I think what you've said that's really interesting is looking out the window at what other people are doing. Because I think one of the things that I read years ago is actually some of the people in your life who you think should be your biggest supporters will probably be your biggest detractors. So people that are very close to you, if you announce you're going to do something crazy, they might not back it as much as you think they were. That might be, it could be anything. It could be setting up a business. It could be doing couch to 10k. It could be going on a massive holiday. Quite often what people will do is think you're capable of what they think they're capable of.
Yeah. That's really cool, especially if change is new. So you can imagine a lot of the guys I work with now, if they turn around and say to their missus or vice versa, I'm going to get myself into really good shape, it doesn't always go down well. Change is difficult for the individual, but it's also difficult for the person that you're with.
Yeah.
So if you say to your partner that you've been with for 15 years, I want to change my life, I want to change who I am, I want to be better, that could threaten them instantly.
Yeah. Well, what, if they're sat thinking, I don't want to change this, this is great, I love it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it does flag up some of the things that individual might need to look at too. Do you know what I mean? Comparison's a weird one. Like, they always say comparison is the thief of joy. I'm like, no, not always. Why don't you compare yourself to someone who you'd like to be like?
That's an interesting one, because you see, I'm in the camp of comparison. See,
No, I'm not, because I could leave here today and take a look at you and go, Duncan's really onto something here about like squeezing the most out of life. And I could compare myself, and again, compare versus use you as inspirations.
Well, you say that. No, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So compare is different to inspiration, because the problem is, right, if you're comparing, this is my view on it.
Yeah.
But I'm quite steadfast on this view.
Yeah.
If you're comparing, ultimately you're going to be unhappy, because if let's say go back to the marathon analogy. Let's say I say to myself, well, I want to run a marathon in 2 hours 50, right? And I do it, but then I find out my mates run it in 2 hours 49. If you're not careful, you're less happy with your 2 hours 50 because you're comparing yourself to them. Whereas what you should be doing, I think, is comparing yourself to what you did last week, or what you did down the, or growing over time. And but I 100% am on board with talking to people and thinking, that's pretty cool. What Alex has done there, that's seriously cool. I could do that, and being inspired by.
The danger is, though, so by the way, that progress of you versus you is 1000% the fairest and best way to do it. Like, you getting better than what you were yesterday. But if I just use you as inspiration and say, well, do you know what, I want to do a big challenge too. If I don't look at the comparison of like, well, what are you doing? Like, how hard are you training? Because that's the danger. People miss that. So they get inspired by, I want to do a marathon. But it's really good to compare in terms of, well, he runs 3.5 hours on a Sunday. Oh, well, that marathon I wanted to do, not quite sure now. Do you know what I mean? So there's...
Yeah, that's fair.
There's that. But again, it all depends what spin. So if you can use comparison in a healthy manner to drive you towards better behaviours, it's not saying you're better than me.
Isn't it?
Yes.
I think for me the danger is when comparison becomes competition, because
but also that might be what drives you towards, you know what I mean? Yes and no. Could it be healthy?
But okay,
yes.
I'll give you an example. What drives an awful lot of people is money, right?
Yeah.
And we need it. We need it to survive. So if you were to say starting out in your working life or working career, I want this. That's what I'm looking for out of life. And then you're basically competing. What happens if someone else gets more? Well, are you as happy with what you said you were going to be happy with?
Probably not. But then you realise that the answers don't lie there. I mean, when you talk about lessons, it's a terrible comparison. So you could take the art of comparison and just use it in a different way. Okay, well, what do I really respect about that person? Can I compare those traits within me? Does that make sense? So you're not comparing what you've got, you're comparing who you are.
But that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Which is and I certainly years ago was basically like, this is the sort of lifestyle I want me and my family to have, and I'm going to have to work really hard to get it. And then fell into the trap of thinking, well, now I've got it, I'm going to have to do more to make it better.
Yeah.
And then I looked at some mates who had chosen a slightly different path. One of my mates, he's a fair bit older than me. He's sort of mid-60s now. He retired at 50, and he didn't retire like Jeff Bezos, absolutely minted. He was comfortable, but he basically said, you know what, we've got enough. We're financially secure enough that what it all becomes about now is happiness. So what we're doing is what makes us happy, rather than chasing the pound note.
Yeah, I'm not convinced on that happiness argument either.
Well, you're not convinced on being happy?
I'm chasing happiness, no. Dude, if you're chasing happiness, you better cancel that trip to rowing across the Atlantic. You ain't going to be happy during those 40 days.
I think I will.
Right.
Well, not all the time. Not all the time. But no.
But you know pain well enough.
But happiness is an end result. Happiness comes.
But it's not
from,
though. It's really fleeting.
Well,
What's there though is pleasure and reward. That's for sure. Growth. So if you find happiness in growth and adventure, but there's a lot of. So if you reduce your elements of pain, if you reduce your exposure to pain, forget pleasure and happiness, is how I see it.
We could get really deep now. What is actual happiness?
Well, for me, I never chase it. For me, I'm more interested in purpose.
No, but what? Okay.
So I would sacrifice my happiness to give that check to charity, in the knowing that I'm going to grow and feel good from it. But I wouldn't say that, like, I wouldn't sit there and go, right, how can I be happy? Because rowing the Atlantic wouldn't be fucking happy for me. But I tell you what I'd love is giving that check to the charity and being one of those people that went, I dug deep and I sailed. And I rowed, sorry. I keep saying
sailing would be good.
Because there's a guy in a few weeks who's sailing.
But no, I'm totally on board with that. And I agree. And what we talked a lot about is, so when my dad died of, he had a heart attack. You know that story. Yeah. And when I did the MDS, I raised money for the first responder unit that went out to him. Yeah. They couldn't save him, but that was just because of what happened to him. And when I did the MDS, I raised money for them, and I went and I gave them a check that was I think it was about 8-9 grand, something like that. And for them, this changed their, not just that financial year, but the next 2 or 3 financial years, and that was amazingly rewarding.
Yeah.
But
that came from a lot of pain, right? That's what I'm saying. Pain of
losing
your dad.
Yeah, but I enjoyed doing it. Yeah.
So that drove your action. So there was all that misery and suffering and pain there. And then I'm guessing during the MDS there was dark times of like digging in, gritting. And then at the end of that was this reward where you said, here you go. Here's the check and look what I've achieved. So it's like 10% reward, 90% suffering for that golden 10%. So
no, I disagree with that.
Okay.
I disagree with that only because you said it yourself right at the start that I quite enjoy the pain. So if you're on board with that, then it becomes part of the happiness.
Okay, so let's
unpack it a bit then.
Yeah.
So would you get more happiness out of going in the gym and beasting yourself? And I've seen you work out in the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're still looking Nick, or lying on your sofa. What are you going to get more happiness out of?
Oh, in the moment. Oh, well, you think it would be an obvious answer of like, yeah, go to the gym. But it's only when I finish that session, sometimes I'm like, thank God it's done, but I feel fucking great.
Yeah.
But not in the moment. But I know that so well. Not all the time. Not all the time.
See,
not all the time.
But see, I do I enjoy it at the time.
Yeah.
I wasn't great in the gym. You had to push me really hard.
It was different to what I see in terms of your distance work, endurance work.
Because I wasn't used to it. I remember coming in and being unable to do a chin up, and we were watching Cool Runnings the other night, and there's that bit when he's having to lift Sanka up.
What a film!
And you were pretty much doing that. You were doing that with me.
Yeah, I used to say to you, "That's 1 rep for me, 2 reps for me," because I was getting a workout in.
Excuse me, but if you put me on a picturesque road, no traffic, and say, right, blitz the next however many miles quick, and it is going to absolutely ruin me, I love it.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of my favourite things to do.
Yeah, which is interesting, by the way. It's a different psychology to most.
Yeah, but then you factor in row along an ocean, right? And row along knowing that beneath you is 5 miles deep of water.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And the sort of man against nature thing is incredible. We're doing this based on some oars. And even when and it will get back, and this will be infinitely worse than anything I've ever done. Infinitely worse. When you got seasickness and everyone's saying realistically the first week you're probably going to be puking.
Okay.
That plays with you mentally. Seasickness does.
Yeah.
But again, what a privilege. Because what's the alternative?
Not to do it?
Yeah.
What would you say the main thing you've learned about yourself from doing things like the Marathon Des Sables? Because I'm guessing there's lessons, like reflecting back now, you must look at it.
I should have gone harder.
Ooh. Do you not always think that though? If I ever say to someone that have you done your best, I can't answer that question ever because I don't know what my best is. Alex, did you give 100% today? I never say yeah, ever.
There's not many marathons I've done that I've not given my best. There's most marathons, whatever time I did it in, I look at it and go, the tank was empty.
Right.
The MDS, the tank wasn't empty.
That's interesting.
And the reason for that was every day you're worried about the rest of the week. So you start off day one, and I had an awful day one when I did the MDS. I had a really bad day one. I had stomach issues. I had a thorn go in my foot. It was a shocker. Then I had a good day two, really good day two. Day three, you're thinking, well, I've got day four tomorrow, and day four's a double marathon. So you're like, well, I can't empty the tank today. What I should have done is empty the tank every day, and I didn't, and that's a regret.
But you completed the MDS, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone does. So surely that's a bit of strategy as well. That's just your brain, isn't it? In your mind going, I can do more, I can do more, I can do more. Like if you'd have caned it on day one, would you have survived day two, day three?
I don't know, but that's the challenge. What I like about marathon running is you can't blag a marathon, you can't bluff a marathon. If you like doing a 5k, 10k, even if I'm going absolutely flat out, right? If I go absolutely flat out and get my pacing wrong, and the final 4k is going to be pretty grotty, you'll get it done. If you hit the wall in a marathon, there's a chance that you're not going to finish.
Yeah.
So you're writing checks at the start that you don't know if you're going to be able to cash them at the end.
I love that, what you've just said. I love anything like that tells you the truth. So this is why I love the physical game, because like if I want to know how someone's eating, I can just say, take your shirt off. Yeah. And it doesn't lie.
I remember you saying that to me.
Yeah, I do it. I ask every guy to do this at home. Take the shirt off, look in the mirror, and it will tell you whether you're eating too much or not.
Yeah.
And I love that because it takes away all your feelings, all your thoughts, all your suggestions, what you think, whether you eat too much. No, it tells you the truth.
Yeah.
And I love anything. Marathon, like you say, you can't lie. You can't rock up and get a great time at a marathon without doing all the work. You can't row the Atlantic and not. And that's what I love about those events.
But that's it all. You can bluff life if you don't really test it. You know?
Yeah, you can. Well, you get through it. You can get through life.
How many people do you know you see that are just living the same day, and they living the same day over and again? Never make a difficult. Never put themselves in a position that they might be exposed.
Yeah,
and that's a big thing for me, right? A big thing for me is, it gets a bit complicated, but once you get 200 miles off the shore, you're not getting a helicopter to pick you up. They won't come out. They can't come out. They've not got the range. So once we get beyond Cape Verde, all bets are off. If you want to get off that boat, you're going to get off that boat onto another boat. So it could be that you get onto a trawler. It could be that you get onto a cargo ship or a container ship. I can tell you now, right, if that happens and I am taken off that ship, you don't get to tell me that I've failed, right? No one. I'll decide that. And so I think you remember I've had a couple of goes at trying to beat the world record for the fastest marathon in rugby kit. So maybe you didn't see it because you're not on Facebook anymore.
No, I am, but I don't check. I haven't seen the news feed.
So this was an idea that I had with Rod, who's on the boat with me. It was to raise money for meningitis. We were trying to think of a way of raising money for meningitis. Yeah. And I've run loads of marathons, so what's the point in just doing another marathon? You can't expect someone to sponsor that.
Yeah.
We had this idea of is there a fancy dress record for the rugby kit? And there was. And I looked at it and I thought, I think I could probably do that. I think it was about 3:26 at the time. Then during the interim, because there was COVID all getting cancelled, this was when I was saying that the races were getting skittled. The marathon came down to, the record came down to, I think, 3:17. Right? So I trained to run about 3:12. I thought I can do 3:12, and that was carrying a ball, head guard, mouth guard, shirt, sock, the full lot. I turned up on the day at London. Millie was there. Turned up on the day, and I was in shape to run 3:12, right? And I got through the first mile, and I heard someone say, there's another rugby guy. I was like, another? And I thought, they must have got that wrong. Carried on going. Mile later, someone else said, oh, there's another rugby guy. And I went out to the guy that said it because he was running along. And I said, what do you mean there's another rugby guy? And he said, oh, there's 2 more doing it. I was like, no. I said, well, what's the deal? And they said, well, one of them is running at 3:05 pace.
Oh, what?
And I was running at 3:12.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to keep going at 3:12, or do I just up it and gun it? And I thought, I've got to do that.
Yeah, well, I knew the answer, yeah.
So up the pace, drop the pace to 6:55 miles, which is about that. Got to mile 24.5, hit the wall, came in outside, found him at the finish, this other guy, who was a lovely bloke. He came up to me and he said, oh, did you do it? Did you do it? And I'm looking at him, he's looking at me. He didn't know what time I'd done it in. I didn't know what time he'd done it in. And he did do it in 3:05, and good for him. Good for him. Lovely bloke. So I failed, right? In what I set out to do, I failed, yeah? But I don't think that I did fail. No, I do think that I failed, but I'm okay with it, and I'm not upset about it. I then had another go at it about 6 months later at the Stratford Marathon. Didn't get it there either. But the people who'll laugh or be condescending about it are probably the people that wouldn't have a go at it anyway, go at something like that anyway. Because actually, you're exposing yourself. When you say I want to do this in whatever it be, whatever it be, you say this is my target, and people know what your target is. They sort of think that they get to decide whether you've passed or failed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the only person who can really decide that is you.
Yeah, and it's definitely something people like. If anyone wants to start anything, they have to be okay with like things not working out, and that word that you use, failure. Like, because if you think about it, most goals are guesses. They're just, you put out a marker and you see whether you can hit it, and you learn whether you can hit it or not by doing it. And then you might fall short, you might get it, you might not. But there's so much to gain from doing that in terms of character building, of grit, resilience, of getting fit, even if you don't hit time. That to look at just like whether you've hit that number is ridiculous.
Well, and the reality is, if you hit it easily, it probably wasn't that hard enough.
Exactly.
Wasn't hard enough in the first place.
There's a book called The Comfort Series that always says every goal that you should strive for should be a toss of a coin, like 50-50.
Whether you can do it or
yeah.
not. Yeah.
So
otherwise, it's not a goal.
Exactly. So if you're not failing some of your goals, then try harder. Or not try harder, set bigger.
No, because I was fuming, genuinely fuming when I watched Eliud Kipchoge in the, was it Berlin he just did? And he finished it in 2 hours, 1 minute and I think 9 seconds, right? And he didn't look that knackered at the end. Like, I know he'll have been hurting, right? Yeah. But I was like, mate, you should be on a stretcher. You should have emptied the tank. Granted, he knows a bit more about it than I do. But, you know what? Usain Bolt was a classic example. So Usain Bolt's world record, do we think we ever saw how quick he could run? I don't think we did.
I don't know.
No, I think he could have gone quicker. And I love the guy. I think absolutely love the guy. But I think he could have set the goal higher. If he'd said, I'm going to run sub 9.5, he'd have run sub 9.5.
Yeah.
And this is a big thing. So we've said with this row, we want to raise £250,000 for charity.
Wow.
That's what we're saying. Right?
Awesome.
We might not.
Yeah, sure. It doesn't matter.
But if we say that's what we want to do, we've got a better chance of raising 100 than if we say we want to raise 50.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with the Snowdon thing that I told you about, where I tried to get 100 guys, got 56.
Yeah, but if you had said I want to get 56, you'd have got 25.
Yeah, we said we wanted to raise 10 grand, we raised 3. But again, not one part of me thought failure.
Exactly.
I was like, 3 grand, amazing. Yeah. That's pretty good. Would I have liked 10? Yeah, but 3 grand's really good. And I think that's just a change of reference. And again, when you've got less to prove, I think that's all to do with proving to people. Like, when you've got less to prove to people, you don't give a shit about stuff like that.
Well, and it comes from being, and I would definitely have been very different 15 years ago.
Sure.
It's when you feel like you're just a bit more comfortable in who you are and in your own skin.
Yeah, 100% that. And a lot of these challenges help you with that, by the way.
Yeah, I'd agree.
They help you with that.
And I'm actually, in a weird way, I'm more proud of failing at that record attempt twice than I would have been if I'd got it first time.
Yeah.
Because I will get it.
Yeah.
I would be doing it right now, apart from I'm road training. And that's not in any way arrogant or cocky. And I caveat it with, someone could take that record down to a place that I'm never going to get.
Sure.
Fair dues. But if it stays sort of the way it is, I'll come back and pick it up again, and it will be worth so much more for having taken 3 or 4 attempts to do it.
Yeah, man. My whole life's been like that, Duncan. It's like I kind of mess up, and then I learn what's important. I learn how not to mess up as much. So like that's no different to any kind of challenge. It's always my best times have always come after my worst.
Yeah,
always. Do you know what I mean? So that little mental
but
breakdown.
you don't know it at the time.
No, of course, because you're in it. Yeah. But like it's almost like you have to get ill sometimes to get better. You have to perform poorly to perform good. In fact, like if you think about anything that you want to get good at, there's a period of time that you have to suck. So the person who's listening to this who's never ran before, you ain't just going to get off the couch and be a great runner. Like it's going to be, it's like that first 30 seconds where you're like, I can't do it. You're out of breath and everything hurts.
And it doesn't need to be running though. Running just happens to be my thing.
Yeah, but whatever it is, right? So whatever you take up that's new, like weightlifting was new for you, like you're gonna suck at it. But in the end, you smashed out 10 pull-ups. Do you remember?
Yeah. Well, I remember because if you remember, you weren't doing that much one-on-one PT when we did that second stint, you and I had to talk you into it because you were saying, "Oh, I'm not really doing it." I was like, "No, mate, it's going to be great." And I remember the thing that I said that you were like, "Oh, that's interesting," is I said to you, "What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture of myself every day."
Yeah.
And that was really interesting because you don't notice the change over time, but then you look at it, you go, "Oh wow, it does change."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, you're one of the few people that I would have come out of retirement for, but just because of that attitude, like it's infectious to be around you and to do your best. Like it makes me like there was no way I was going to let you down on that one. Do you know what I mean? It's because I knew you give your best. I love people like that.
And that's how it works.
It's all right, you can pour.
Sounds like someone's having a wee.
It does sound like someone's pissing themselves, yeah.
But the thing, you and I just connected really well.
Yeah.
And it became genuinely fun.
Yeah, it did.
And I think
was great.
probably fun for you as well.
I loved it. Yeah.
And then we had the flipping gangster rap playing and all of that.
Do you remember the old lady Christine? She was a lovely lady. It was her first view around the gym, and I think I can't remember who was showing around. But yeah, we had NWA straight out of Compton.
Well, straight out.
Blasting out. And if anyone knows that song, yeah.
She didn't like that.
No, she joined though. She was all right in the end. But yeah,
but that song's worth about an extra 10% on your workout.
Big time.
We used to have Rocky playing.
Yeah, music's so important. What you put in your ears. Like I get that whole 15-minute setup thing. By the way, I'm prepared now, so I've got playlists that I put on because I don't want to be doing that in the gym. But what you have in your ears, and if you think about that, what you have in your ears all the time is important. So who you speak to, what you listen to, all of that stuff is so important.
Well, a big thing for us is sorting out a speaker system on the boat.
Yeah, damn right. Damn right. And I think that's so important. Like, can that be done?
Yeah.
So you can have motivational stuff. You can have Rocky. Oh, so cool, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Imagine these 4 guys just rowing the Atlantic with Rocky on.
3 guys and one lady.
3 guys. Oh, cool.
3 guys and 1 lady. And she's Imi, who's the lady in the boat. She's hard as nails.
Yeah.
She's done several Ironmen.
Yeah.
She's
cool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just but your point stands, which is
it's going to be awesome.
Having some music. Yeah. Aside from all of the bad bit.
Should we wrap this up with a couple more questions?
Yeah.
We've been chatting for an hour and a half, by the way.
Have we?
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought an hour with you out of your busy schedule would be enough, so sorry if I've kept you.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
A couple of questions that I like to traditionally ask then. Well, you've kind of answered this in detail, but what is next for you? So apart from rowing of the Atlantic, is there anything else, even in terms of like fun adventure business that's coming up for you that's grabbed your excitement and attention? What's life have in store?
I want to do Lands End John O'Groats. That will be in a few years. Realistically, I want to have another go at this marathon record. But beyond that, work's good. The business is going well. I just want to spend more time outdoors.
Yeah,
just more time outdoors. The kids are getting older. So one of the things that we started doing at home is we've got some open beams in the kitchen, in the ceiling, and one thing that we started doing is when we climb a mountain, and they're not always mountains. We went up. It's not Snowdon. We went up. I can't remember where it was. Another relatively small summit. We got a rock from the top, and what we did, just small, like fist size, and then got it home, and wrote on it the date that we did it as a family.
Oh, cool.
And we're sort of putting them on, and I like the idea of doing things like that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Being outdoors.
Yeah. What's your favourite adventure that you've done? You can speak into that mic, by the way. In fact, you can test it for me. Go on, just turn it around and speak into it.
I like doing all the athletics events.
Athletics? That's really popular at school now. I know a few of my friends' kids getting into athletics. Athletics is awesome because you become, I think they call it a hybrid athlete, where you can do everything. You're strong, fit, you can run, you can go the distance, you're powerful, all that kind of stuff. So that's a good one to stick into.
We do a lot of gymnastics as well, don't you?
Gymnastics.
I don't really like
Okay.
Strong.
Yeah, yeah.
Gymnastics is so strong.
We're really keen on the gymnastics. You look at so many professional sports people, and I did gymnastics as a kid.
Yeah, for sure. And then final question, I like this question, it's a bit of a deep one. So what do you need to work on next in order to become like a better, we call it a better man. So whether this be in an area of father, husband, you as an individual, what are you working on in terms of character of yourself?
That's quite an easy one to answer,
Go on.
actually, which is just better empathy and better understanding that what matters to me doesn't always matter to other people.
It took me a long time to work that out.
And what matters to other people doesn't necessarily matter to me, but if it does matter to them, it does matter to me. So it's working out what that is.
How do you train empathy then?
Listening more.
It's hard, isn't it?
It is. I can get very frustrated in a situation where I think it's obvious. It's obvious that this should happen at this point in time. And Lucy says to me quite a lot. She says, "Don't you think about stuff a lot?" And I'll think, well, why has that not happened? And why are they not bothered about this? Because this is really important. It's because it's not that important to them. And there's a great bit in the Living with the Lions, the British Lions rugby documentary, the famous one from 1997. And Ian McGeechan says, look, let's find out what matters to all of us, because if we find out what matters to you, it'll matter to me. And if it matters to me, it matters to us all. And if it matters to us all, we'll be successful. And I think, for me, that's key. I can be very, very blinkered, very unintentionally selfish, because that's the goal. And everything's going to be collateral damage in the way.
Yeah.
I've had situations where people came around for my birthday, called in at our house on my birthday, and I've sort of like, oh, hiya, I'm getting on the treadmill, because I had to do that session. That's not great.
Yeah, I know, I totally get you, but it's also what makes you awesome as well. Do you know what I mean? It's one of everything that has that like left and right to it.
Yeah, but understanding the kids and what matters to them.
Yeah, of course.
And then, they always say with your kids that when they're really young, they're telling you about stuff in their day that's so inconsequential. Right? It's not. It'll be a funny little story about something at school that's like, but it really matters to them because that's their world. And if you don't engage with what matters to them when they're young, they're not going to tell you what matters to them when they're older.
No, that's true. I think the one thing I've probably done to help with, because I struggled with that before. I think this whole being present thing, like if I'm with my mum and dad, for example, I try my best to be with my mum and dad. And even in the things that frustrate me about them now, I try and put a spin on it as like these are the things that I'll miss when they're gone. So if my mum is talking shit, for example, now I'll go, mum's talking shit, actually enjoy it because that's the shit you'll miss.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I can kind of tap into stuff like that by thinking outside myself a little bit. Because you spend so much time thinking inside your own head, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, your world is in here, and that's the only world that ever exists.
Yeah.
And you forget to look at others. I do, anyway.
Yeah, no.
Education, isn't it? This is an education. Two old men chatting about life.
We just get caught up, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You get caught up in it.
Of course you do.
Caught up in, just as I've said, trust in the process. And I can't remember, there was a book I was reading recently, which is don't focus on the goal, focus on the process. And if your process is right, the process gets you to the goal. That's the positive side of that. The negative side of that is the collateral damage around that, which is I'm so focused on this process, whatever it may be. It could be work, it could be friendships, it could be, I haven't seen such and such in ages, so I'm going to go and see them. It's going to cause a load of grief that way, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. There's only one way around that, is that self-observation. It keeps coming up lately in talks with people. You've got to be able to stop and separate yourself from yourself and have a look at what you're doing. It's hard because, like you say, one, you get busy, and two, there's distractions to stop you from looking at what you're doing. Yeah. So once you're on your phone, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Whilst you're working really hard, you don't look at any of that stuff.
No, and it becomes, you convince, well, this is great. What I'm doing is great.
Yeah. Mate, good luck.
Thanks, mate.
I hope I'll see you again.
Yeah, you will.
I know.
You will.
I've got every faith in you as well.
I might have to give you a shout about.
Well, I wouldn't mind coming around and seeing the gym. To be fair, it's something that I know you've been wanting to build for a while. So is it done?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to. What have you called it? CV35.
No, we did talk about. We were going to call it CV47.
CV47.
That was our postcode. No, we haven't.
You haven't named it.
We haven't named it. Well,
Okay.
CV47.
Have you got the speakers in the ceiling? Sonos speakers? Because I know you have in your kitchen, haven't you?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, got speakers.
I know you sent. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love that.
We'll get you out.
Sonos is more. You could take my TV. You could take all that stuff. You do not take my Sonos speakers. My music.
Just any speakers.
I want my music. Forget my TV. You can take anything else. My books and my music's my thing. Mate, thank you.
Cool. We done?
We're done. Good luck, man.
We're still recording.
You're doing a great thing. Right. Cheers, dude.
Okay, mate. Could we just do me a favour?